All right, welcome back to the fantasy forecast. Going into week 5, we had another pretty wild week of NFL. During week 4, saw a lot of good things, saw a lot of bad things, saw some very surprising things in fantasy, which is expected though. To go through today's agenda, I'm gonna go through a few of the picks from last week that I liked, and then we'll go through our picks this week with the algorithm saying, and I'll take a phone call from a viewer. And then I will get AJ Eagle back on the pod for week 3. But to get started, all right, some results from last week. So we called Justin Herbert. He ended up having 24.4 points. We said Russell Wilson. I know a few people didn't like that one. Russell ended up with 22.2 points. We said Tua. He only had 15 points, which that's okay for a fantasy quarterback, but I was expecting something a little higher, so we're a little off with that one. See, we called Puka Nakua, who ended up with 31.3 points. We called Devontae Adams with 15.5 points. We said not to start Zay Flowers, who only had 8 points. And then look at some of these running backs. We said DeAndre Swift. He ended up with 17.9. We said Kenneth Walker, 13.9. I would have liked something a little higher. I was expecting something a little higher, but I'll take 13.9 out of a running back too. James Cook, 14.7. We said not to start Joe Mixon, who only had 8.6. We said not to start Breece Hall, who had 9.9. We said not to start A.J. Dillon at 1.1. We said not to start Rachaad White, 10.8. So, yeah, it was a pretty good week. Like I said, there was a lot of unexpected things that happened, but for the most part, the algorithm did do well. I'm excited to dive into these picks because I have a few locks for this week. As far as quarterbacks go, quarterbacks you need to start, and I'll just briefly go into a little bit of details, but I'm saying Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford, CJ Stroud, Tua, and Russell Wilson again. Really, I'm liking Kirk Cousins against the Chiefs. Chiefs defense is okay, but I think this is going to be kind of a high-scoring game all around. Algorithm says Kirk should throw for 225 to 250 with 2 touchdowns. Honestly, I'm expecting a little more, but I'm just basing this off these stats. Tua, I'm liking Tua simply because the Giants are not very good. Expecting 260 to 280 with 2 touchdowns. We know how Miami is. We saw their big loss last week. So honestly, they may want a comeback week. They may throw for more than that. But as of right now, Tua is a lock regardless. Matt Stafford against the Eagles. This is my favorite pick of the week. The Eagles have a really good line, but they don't have a very good secondary. Algorithm's telling me 275 to 300 yards with at least 2 touchdowns. There's rumors Cooper Kupp may be coming back this week, which makes this even more sweeter. Matt Stafford, that's my favorite pick. I'm actually trying to trade for him right now. I would suggest you all do the same before the week starts. CJ Stroud, really liking CJ Stroud. Texans are starting to look pretty good. They're playing the Falcons, who aren't looking very good. Algorithm says 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'll take it. That's solid. And Russell Wilson against the Jets. I know there's a lot of hype about the Jets defense being good. They're okay. Algorithm says 200 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. So I'll take that. If you have Russell Wilson, definitely start him this week. Quarterbacks to sit this week are going to be Desmond Ridder against Houston, Kenny Pickett against Baltimore, Jameis Winston against New England, Trevor Lawrence against the Bills, and Joe Burrow against Arizona. I'll just kind of go over what the algorithm's saying on these. So Desmond Ridder, expect 160 to 180 yards with a 60% chance of one passing touchdown. Those are low numbers. Those are low odds. If you have Desmond Riddler, you shouldn't have Desmond Riddler to begin with, but if you're debating it, nah. Kenny Pickett against the Ravens. Ravens have a solid defense. Expect 160, 180 yards with one touchdown, similar to the Desmond Riddler algorithm. Jameis Winston looks like Derek Carr is going to be out again, most likely. So depending on if it's Jameis Winston or Derek Carr playing, don't start either one of those. The Patriots have only allowed 3 passing touchdowns this year. The defense is solid. It's going to be a really slow burner game. I think we see a lot of rushing, a lot of running attempts in this game, but even then, I'm not expecting a lot of rushing yards. But passing game's just not going to be there for this one. Trevor Lawrence against the Bills. So analytically, the Bills are the number 2 overall defense right now. The algorithm saying that Trevor should have less than 200 passing yards with only 1 passing touchdown. I know we keep Jacksonville's a hard one to gauge, right? They look good some weeks, they don't look good some weeks, but I mean this Bills defense is for real. I'd stay away from Trevor Lawrence this week. If Joe Burrow against Arizona, statistically this should be one of Joe Burrow's better games with how many passing yards Arizona has been allowing. But also the stats just for the Bengals side of things is actually against Joe Burrow just for how bad they've been playing. 4 weeks of data is saying that he's not going to throw for 225 yards, may throw right above 200. It's just not actually worth starting him, especially when there's other starting quarterbacks probably on the waiver wire available. I would stay away from Joe Burrow until we see them playing well. I think it's bound to happen. I think the Bengals will start playing well, but I want to see it first. I wouldn't bank on this game, him just being amazing. Wide receivers that you should be starting this week. I've got Stephon Diggs against Jacksonville, Romeo Doubs against Vegas, Puka Nacua against Philly, Terry McLaurin against Chicago, and then Nico Collins. Who did I say they're playing? The Falcons. So Stephon Diggs, Jacksonville's defense isn't great. They played pretty good against Atlanta last week, but statistically, past 4 weeks, rolling average, like Stephon Diggs, he should have a big game this week. One of the biggest games. That's actually like the clearest receiver in the algorithm to have a big game. I'm liking Romeo Doubs for the Packers. Algorithm says there should be at least 2 passing touchdowns this game. Issue is it going to be Christian Watson? Is it going to be Romeo Doubs, right? Christian Watson is back, but Romeo Doubs and Jordan Love seem to have a lot of good chemistry. So I'm going to keep riding that one out with Romeo Doubs against Vegas. Puka Nacua, I'm starting him whether or not Cooper Kupp is back. If Cooper Kupp is back, his points are going to be a little lower. But against Philly, this is going to be a passing game. This is not going to be a rushing game. Philly's defensive line is too good, and their secondary is not good at all. These coaches know that, right? So Puka Nacua is a lock this week. Terry McLaurin against Chicago. Washington's not great, but Chicago has allowed the second most passing yards of all defenses. I think it's going to be another big one. Honestly, I know he wasn't in my starter sit in quarterbacks, but Sam Howell may be a solid one this week as well. He's not my top 5 to start, but based off how bad Chicago's defense is, I think you're good with any Commanders players. But Terry McLaurin should have a big week. Nico Collins, I already talked about CJ Stroud. Nico is the clear favorite in Houston right now. If you got him, you should be starting him, at least in a flex spot. But really, he's a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 at this point in the season. To sit, a few of these are going to be surprising. A few of them won't be. So I'm sitting Debo Samuels. I'm sitting T. Higgins, Michael Thomas, George Pickens, and Devontae Adams. We'll talk about that Devontae Adams one's in a little bit. That one's I'm a little iffy on it. I know. I mean, I trust the algorithm, but a little iffy. Debo Samuels. I'm really not liking any of San Francisco's passing this game against Dallas. Dallas has allowed the least amount of passing yards amongst all defenses this year. They've only allowed 2 passing touchdowns. Dallas statistically has one of the best defenses in the league against the pass right now. I mean, Brock Purdy's solid, but this isn't going to be, he's not the one to break Dallas's streak as far as how solid their defense has been playing. Stats show San Francisco will be more successful with the run game. So, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, he's the guy in San Francisco. They're going to have to stick to that run game this game again. Like, the passing is just not there. T. Higgins, already talked about Joe Burrow. I mean, it looks like Joe Burrow's successful passes are going to Jamar Chase. Even Tyler Boyd's catching some. T. Higgins, I'd be very cautious about starting him. I've seen some rumors he could even be getting traded. So if that is true, I'm not saying it is true or isn't true, but if it is true, they may be taking him out of the actual game plan a little bit more, get him a little less involved. Michael Thomas, I talked about Jameis Winston, George Pickens, Devontae Adams. This is a weird one. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been announced as 100% coming back yet from concussion protocol. If he is back, I still don't like this matchup against the Packers. The Packers have a pretty decent defense, middle of the pack defense. But if Jimmy G isn't back and it's still the backup quarterback, and it's not even worth starting Devontae. You're better off, risking somebody else. That's one we're just going to see a little bit closer to Sunday to see. Actually, that's the Monday night game. If Jimmy G isn't officially ruled as in or out by Sunday morning, I would probably not take the risk on Devontae Adams. I don't think it's worth it. It's really not. I mean, if they were playing some like awful defense, then I would say, yeah, just hold out and wait. But I mean, the Packers have a good defense. It's a Monday night game. They're going to show out. So that one might be controversial, but all right, running backs to start. I have Devon Achane. Again, I have Gus Edwards. I have DeAndre Swift. I have Jamar Gibbs. I have Breece Hall. So looking at the algorithm, looking at the stats, Achane is the clear number 1 running back this week against the Giants. Algorithm says expect at least 80 rushing yards with at least 1 touchdown, but it's leaning more towards 2 touchdowns. The issue is you have Mostert involved in the running game as well. So Achane is not guaranteed both of those rushing touchdowns, but statistically there will be 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. I like Achane's chance of having both of those touchdowns, but I mean it's a definite start. Gus Edwards, I like Gus Edwards this week. Steelers aren't really very good against the rushing game. Algorithm says total rushing yards for the game, 130 to 150 rushing yards. Issue with this one is Lamar Jackson's a rushing quarterback, so a large percentage of those rushing yards could be Lamar Jackson's. That's something to be a little cautious about. But if you have Gus Edwards sitting, then I would start him this week. I think that's a good one. Especially now that Justice Hill isn't getting involved as much after his injury. Yeah, I like Gus Edwards a lot this week. Got DeAndre Swift against the Rams. So this algorithm made it very clear that there's going to be a rushing touchdown this game. It's kind of the same situation as the Ravens game too, is that Jalen Hurts could get that rushing touchdown instead of DeAndre Swift. But I think this early in the season, the play calling, they're going to be a little more conservative to make sure Jalen Hurts doesn't get hurt, especially week 5 out of an 18-week season. So I'm expecting them. I mean, Swift is solid. We've seen he's explosive. He's solid. I think if when they get to the goal line, they're going to run Swift instead of doing these little options to Jalen Hurts, just because you can't risk it this early. Jahmyr Gibbs against the Panthers. It's a good matchup, very good matchup for Detroit. Panthers' run defense isn't great. I think they're going to rely heavily on the run in Detroit this week. I'm liking Jahmyr Gibbs. Breece Hall. I've been saying to sit Breece Hall the last 2 or 3 weeks. And that's actually like that call has been good. But this week is different against the Broncos. Broncos, they've allowed 7 rushing touchdowns and have allowed the most rushing yards amongst all defenses. I mean, the stats are clear, right? Like, if the Jets want to win their first game since week 1, they're going to have to rely on the run game. Whether that's Breece Hall, whether that's Dalvin Cook, I think both of them have a solid game. Shows both of them may have a touchdown. But I like Breece Hall a little bit more. He seems like the number 1 running back, but you don't have another running back or like a strong running back 2, and you have Dalvin Cook on your bench. That may be a good play just for this week against the Broncos. Real quick, who you should sit at running back? Najee Harris, Alexander Madison, Ramondre Stevenson. Hope I'm saying that right. Kyron Williams, Tony Pollard. Najee Harris. I mean, Steelers' run game it barely exists at this point. They're playing one of the best defenses in the league with the Ravens. It's not even worth it. It's not even. I mean, I know you probably got Najee Harris in the 2nd round of your draft, but take a chance on somebody else this week because it's going to lose your league this week if you start him. Alexander Madison, same thing. Vikings run game isn't great. They're clearly a passing team now that they don't have Dalvin Cook. Ramondre Stevenson. So the Patriots are playing the Saints. Saints have only allowed 1 rushing touchdown this year. They have a very good defensive line. Pretty good defense overall. I know Stevenson's been okay, but this is not his week. This is going to be a very down week for him. Kyron Williams for the Rams. I know I said it earlier. The Eagles, they have a very good rushing defense. Statistically, they have a top 3 rushing defense, while they also have a weak secondary. So the Rams, they're going to be passing all game. This is going to be a passing game, especially if Cooper Kupp is back. I mean, Kyron Williams he may get the ball 10 to 15 times, but he's not going to get much yards. So I know he's been playing pretty well. A little hit or miss, but this is going to be one of those miss weeks. And then Tony Pollard, kind of similar to the Kyron Williams situation. The Cowboys are playing San Francisco. San Francisco has a top 3 rushing defense in the league as well. They've only allowed 2 rushing touchdowns for the year. So really, like, if the Cowboys are going to try and win this game, which, it's a big NFC matchup, they should try and win it. Dak is going to have to throw the ball around. It's not going to be a rushing game. I'm sitting Tony Pollard this week. So that's my picks. Comment what you like. Comment what you don't like. There's probably a little bit of both, right? Like, I know I got some controversial picks in there, but just going off the algorithm, just going off what I'm seeing, trends, stats, analytics. It's the name of the game, All right, I have a call. This is going to be Dominic from Kingsport. He has a very good question. I will dive into this briefly, but to answer his question, so we'll let that roll right now.
Hey, Fantasy Forecast. It's Dominic, another weekly caller here. I picked up Adam Thielen off waivers, and he's actually been kind of going off. So if you had Adam Thielen, would you start him right now, or would you let him ride on the bench? What are your thoughts?
All right. Adam Thielen. It's a good question, Dominic, because I've kind of wondered the same thing in one of my leagues until I started looking at the stats, right? So the future for Adam Thielen, or really the Panthers as a whole, is very like up in the air, right? Um, we don't really know how well Bryce Young is going to do yet, or really how good he's going to be. I've seen some rumors going around that the Panthers are trying to trade for a number one receiver, give Bryce Young a little help. Like I said, it's all rumors, but I mean that's a good part of this podcast is addressing stuff that we're seeing from good sources, reliable sources. So if that's the case, I mean that's going to drive Thielen's value down, right? Like if they can get T Higgins or I don't know somebody a little stronger, a little younger, a little more athletic, then that's going to bring Thielen's value down a little bit. As far as this specific week goes, I would not be starting him against Detroit. They're kind of middle of the pack against the second, or their secondary is a little like average, right? Average is what I'm trying to get at. But they haven't been allowing quarterbacks a ton of passing yards for the season. Detroit has a strong defensive line, while the Panthers' offensive line isn't blocking great right now. I'm expecting a few sacks this game. I'm expecting Bryce Young to struggle a little more than we've seen, which we've already seen him struggle quite a bit. But they're playing a pretty decent defense. So Thielen, algorithm says it's not the worst person you could play. It's not a 100% sit this week. But if you have other players that are kind of a similar like potential flex value that Thielen is, I would probably be looking to start them instead this week. But not a 100% sit. Like I hope that helps. It's just this specific matchup against Detroit is like very iffy, and the Panthers are just like a very average lower tier team right now. Yeah, but I appreciate the call for sure. All right, so next up, we will get AJ Eagle on the pod. We'll go over some picks, and we'll go over our who we think is going to win this week, and then we'll cover like how we did last week too, making our picks. AJ Eagle, welcome back to the pod. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. How you been? Good to be back on here again.
Hey, good to have you back. I was getting a little lonely on here, you know.
Yeah, I'm glad I could be your company for the remainder of this program.
Thank you, much appreciated, and the fans appreciate it. You know.
Good. I do it for the fans.
Subscribers.
I'm on here for the fans, not because I enjoy it as a hobby, but because of the fans.
You're here for the people, by the people, because of the people.
Yes,
and that's
sir.
why we love you, AJ Eagle.
Yes, sir.
All right. What you got for us this week? Give us some picks.
I'm gonna start off this week, I think, with running backs. Actually, I'll talk a little bit about some of the picks I had last week or with a couple of people I thought were gonna go off. Alvin Kamara, I thought he would have a big game. I think he had 21 points last week. Another one, Anthony Richardson. With him coming back off a concussion protocol, he had like 30 points, I think, last week with the rushing touchdown. I think those were my two like bigger picks that I had last week. But going forward this week with running backs, first I have Joe Mixon, just solely pretty much because they're playing Arizona and Joe Burrow seems to be still hurt. I mean, I think it's obvious watching him play that he's still hurt. So I'm hoping they'll maybe rely on the run game a little more than what they have been currently. Mm-hmm. And then also have DeAndre Swift against the Rams. Brees Hall just solely because they're playing Denver, coming off of an okay game against Kansas City. I know Zach Wilson played pretty good, but Brees Hall still only had like 10 points. And then I also have Raheem Mostert. They're playing the Giants. That game kind of got out of hand, I'd say, after the second. Well, actually, Mostert just had a bad game in general. He had 2 fumbles. And then that game kind of got out of hand towards the second half, so they didn't really run him as much as I wanted them to run him because he's on my fantasy team. So that's why his points I don't think were very good last week. Plus they have that a Shane guy who kind of went off. So yeah. I could see him possibly having a big game this week with the Giants to secure his RB1 spot. What you got?
No, I have a few of those. I mean, I had DeAndre Swift on my list.
I told you, I think we're gonna be pretty similar this week in our picks.
Yeah. I mean, against the Rams D line isn't like incredible, to be honest with you. They're not the D line they used to be.
Besides Aaron
Um,
Donald,
yeah, I mean Aaron Donald, he's not. I don't know. He's okay. He's just
he's
very
okay.
famous, you know. He's just very
Uh,
famous. So,
yeah.
I mean, my stats, my algorithm says that there'll be at least one rushing touchdown, potentially two in that game. Um, it's just a matter of if Jalen Hurts is the one to do it or if DeAndre Swift is the one to do it, right?
Yep.
And I could see the Eagles playing a little bit more conservatively this early in the season. Because I mean, if Jalen Hurts gets hurt this early, like you're just kissing the season goodbye, you know.
Mhm.
Um, let's see, I like Achane, but I know you're a Mozart guy. I think both of them probably have a big game. I mean, the Giants are just awful. Like we saw that on Monday night. Like the Giants are just bad. Like I would be starting anybody against them at any time.
Yeah, I know I said I have Mostert on my team, so I hope this doesn't happen, but I think the Dolphins are slowly. How do you say his name?
I think it's Achane. I don't know.
A Shane. I'm gonna go with
Achane.
Shane.
Okay,
I think it's a Shane. But
Achane.
I know Shane was a running back that Coach Daniels,
Okay.
whatever his name.
Yeah, yeah.
He drafted him personally. Well,
Oh
not
wow.
personally, but he was the first running back that he drafted into his own system. A running back like Mostert wasn't acquired through trades or anything. So,
Hmm.
I mean, you can see it. The dude fits the script of the Dolphins. He's super fast, super shifty. So
Yeah.
I could see, going forward in the season, especially if Mostert has another performance like what he did last week with two fumbles, that they could rely more on a Shane to be the RB1 instead of Mostert. But like I said, I hope that doesn't happen because I have Mostert. But we'll see. I mean, Miami has two running backs, and I don't. They're at least top ten in fantasy
Yeah.
points right
Oh,
now,
they're both great.
possibly
Yeah.
top five. Yeah,
Um, and a couple. I mean, I've already spent most of the pod going through my picks. So I'm not gonna go into too much, but like a few of my favorite picks this week. I really like Matt Stafford against the Eagles, especially if Cooper Cup is back. I mean, Cooper Cup and Puka Nakua together. Imagine that.
30.
30.
Tutu Howell's not bad too. He's been
Yeah,
having
2-2.
some
Yeah,
pretty good games.
even better, right?
Yeah,
The Eagles have a good D line, but their secondary is not very great. I really like Stephon Diggs against Jacksonville. And then I'm liking I know which way you're gonna be leaning on this. You're a Christian Watson guy. I like Romeo Dobbs, whatever his name is, Romeo Dobbs. Um,
yeah.
I think one of those two are gonna pop up against Vegas this week.
Against
Um,
Vegas, dude.
it,
Like I feel like Green Bay's just been kind of splitting the ball evenly though. Like Dobbs, I think he's had at
yeah,
least over 15 probably his past 3 games. And
yeah.
then Christian Watson had a touchdown last week, and then the other guy, Jaden Reed, I
Uh,
believe he's been holding pretty consistent at like 10 to 12 points the last like 3 weeks. So I think Dobbs is probably Jordan Love's guy, but I could see
it's
Watson
it
sliding
just
up.
it feels like it
So
could go anywhere at any time though, right?
yeah, like
Like
what you're
nobody
saying,
seems like the
they split the ball evenly though between the
yeah,
three. So
yeah. All right. Somebody I want to hear your opinion on about this week is Jonathan Taylor. I haven't talked about him
dude,
yet.
I was gonna ask you about that.
Jonathan
Um,
Taylor.
so if he comes back
Uh
this
huh.
week against um, the Titans have a pretty good run defense, but I honestly don't know against the Titans. I know Jonathan Taylor basically has to have he's on a prove it year pretty much. He wanted more money. He wanted to be traded, so dude pretty much has to just come in and ball. If he does, if he plays, like you have to put him in your lineup if you had him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't have him, but if he's on my bench, he's been sitting on my bench for 4 weeks, and he's finally going to be coming off the bench. You have to play the guy, but I honestly don't know if he has a big game or not. What's your opinion on it?
All right, so just looking over the stats of this is just the teams from this week that are playing this week, right? There's 4 teams on a bye week. But
Yeah.
looking at this just real quick, so the Titans have allowed the 4th fewest rushing yards this year. So they're really good against the rushing defense.
Terrible against the pass.
They've only allowed 1 rushing touchdown this year.
Uh-huh.
But, I mean, the Colts have had 5 rushing touchdowns, some of those being Anthony Richardson's.
Yeah, he's had, 3? He's had at least 3.
Yeah. And, I mean, Zach Moss has been pretty good. So, I mean, that one's a toss-up. It's also, like, I want to know how much he's been practicing with the team and what kind of reps he's getting. And are they still looking to trade him? Or are they keeping him, right? I feel like that's a big factor, too. If they know they're going to trade him, then shouldn't they be letting Zach Moss get the reps?
Yeah, I know. It's a weird situation that's played out most of the off season, and now it's transferred to now that we're in the actual season. I honestly don't know what to say, but the only thing I'll say it again: if you have him on your team, you have to play the dude. I feel like
just in case, right? Just for the
I mean, but I could also see just if he does play against Tennessee to just maybe have him on your bench for 1 week, and then if he pops off on your bench, you're like, oh, okay, I trust this guy now. But like I had him last year, and he didn't do anything pretty much all year. I think he had maybe 3 games where he went over 20 points. It was a very like depressing year, and I know most people last year took him as the #1 overall. So he obviously has the potential, but you just don't know with the dude.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards the bench him for a week, see what happens type deal. Unless you don't have a better running back to start, right?
Yeah.
Cool. You got our picks from last week? You got the results?
Yeah, so I went 11 for 16.
11
and
for
you
16?
went 9 for 16. We both picked Miami to win.
Okay.
And then you had Commanders, Patriots, and Giants, who obviously all those teams lost. So I take the win this week. Sorry about it, but
all right, man.
it is what it is,
So what you're pretty much saying is everybody needs to fast forward halfway in the podcast and just listen to AJ's picks, because I mean, clearly.
We actually do this. We actually do this for my work. Each week we have a weekly pick, and then the winner gets all the money. And I actually won this week for work too, so it was just meant to be.
I'm gonna have to put a bet slip in on whatever you're about to say for this week.
Well, we'll see, dude.
You ready to go through and pick these?
There's 2 quarterbacks I wanted to talk about before we go into picks.
Okay.
And it's basically I want to know if with the bye, do you think start Josh Dobbs against the Bengals? He's had over 45 rushing yards his past 3 games. He's played pretty well, I would say, for a guy in the position that he's in. Would you feel comfortable picking him up on a bye week and starting him against the Bengals?
You said Josh Dobbs?
Yeah, I feel like, no one really expected this guy to play this good, but I honestly feel like he's been playing pretty well.
He plays the Bengals this week.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I got it pulled up. Let's see. So algorithm says 180 to 220 yards. This is passing yards. Over one passing touchdown, but less than 2 passing touchdowns. Looking at the Bengals defense, middle of the pack as far as passing yards goes. Man, I feel like it all comes down to the Bengals have allowed 6 passing touchdowns for the year, while the Cardinals have thrown 4 passing touchdowns. I mean, yeah, honestly, I had him on the sit list last week, and he's kind of earned his spot off of that sit list.
Yeah, he's been over 20 points, I think, the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or 2 of the past 3 weeks.
I feel like it comes down to who you have, right? Do you have a safe quarterback, or are you kind of like scrambling to get a quarterback every week? But I mean, Dobbs against the Bengals, like Bengals don't look good.
Nah, dude, it's weird. It's weird with them. I truly don't understand it. But
Like
yeah,
I
that's
wouldn't
why
play him
I just
against
brought
like
him up.
I wouldn't play him against like Detroit or like San Francisco or something. But like against the Bengals, I'm comfortable with that. Like,
Yeah.
um, what else you got?
CJ Stroud, dude, guy's been going off. Guy's been going absolutely off. I think the 2 out of his past 3 games, he's thrown for over 300 yards. I think he
Mm-hmm.
has what 6 touchdowns in 4 games and no interceptions. And then he's going in to play at Atlanta this week. So I feel like dude goes off this week. Like he's been making a mark for himself. Started off slow or whatever in the first game, but
Yeah,
him and Nico Collins have just kind of been going off right now. So I could see him having another massive game against Atlanta. And then obviously, dude, I have Anthony Richardson on the list too for on my quarterbacks list, dude. Again, like I just like watching the guy play, dude.
yeah,
He's good.
yeah.
Uh,
I had Stroud on my must start this week. Just because I feel like they're getting hot. They have quite a few passing yards. Honestly, they're like in the top 3 passing yards for the year.
Houston,
Houston, yeah. Now
yeah, he's
Atlanta hasn't allowed a ton of passing yards compared to other teams, but even then, like they've allowed 6 passing touchdowns. Houston's thrown 7 passing touchdowns, so like I mean, there's a lot of
okay.
upside to that, right?
Yeah, dude, like I said, he's thrown for over 300 yards. I think week 2 he threw for like 304, and then week 3 it was like 280, and then
Yeah.
last week I think he had 330.
And
So
then
like,
I had Nico Collins on my must start list too, just because that's his guy. Like he's tossing it up to him, and like they're making magic happen.
yeah, and then I also had on the QB start list
Oh
Sam Howell. Thought he looked pretty good. I
yeah,
think we talked about last week that dude's like either really on or really off, and we saw
mm,
last week him kind of be really on against Philly. Who you actually picked, dude? You actually picked the Commanders to win that game against Philly, and it
I
came
did.
down to tie game, close game, the whole game. So that would have
Yeah.
been wild if you would have picked that game, dude.
Oh man.
You were
Oh,
you were probably in like 10% of people that actually picked them to win. But
that picked
I
them.
had him on the start list too because I thought I think he looked good against them, and then playing the Bears, who obviously not a very good team. I could see him
Yeah.
having a good game.
So Chicago has the worst defense in the league right now.
Yeah,
They've allowed 10 passing touchdowns for the year.
10 passing touchdowns. Damn.
Yeah.
And then,
Now
hey, on my quarterbacks list with a bunch of question marks next to him is Zach Wilson.
Zach
If that
Wilson.
game, if that game against the Chiefs was a fluke, I thought he looked really good.
Yeah.
Honestly, he looked really good, and Patrick Mahomes kind of just looked shitty like the first half with those interceptions. They're going against Denver, who obviously gave
Mm-hmm.
up 70 points, and then was in a close game with Chicago last week. So I mean, again, if
Yeah.
your quarterback's on a bye, I could see this being a guy to maybe pick up to play 1 week against just a bad team in general too, like similar to the Bears. You
Okay.
know?
Actually, the Bears are the second worst defense. The Broncos are the first worst
Yeah,
defense.
I was gonna say because the Broncos have given up way more points.
Yeah. 13 passing touchdowns for the year.
Jesus, in
Something
4 games.
something I've noticed looking at that though is like from a passing standpoint, I think the Jets are going to do well, but also think from a running standpoint. So the Broncos have allowed 7 rushing touchdowns. Think
Okay,
about that. Like that's I don't know, but here's that's the thing about the Jets too is like they're
they've
not
allowed.
great.
Wait, they've allowed 7 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah,
All those touchdowns then were in the Miami game. I'm pretty sure.
7 of them.
I think Shane had 4 or whatever, and Moster had 3, or the other way.
So it's kind of a loaded stat then, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, dude. Like I'm pretty sure he had One of them had 4, one of them had 3 in that Miami game.
Oh man, yeah, that's that's gonna be an interesting game then. I mean, we'll see like if if the Jets can't do anything against them this game, then they're truly terrible, right?
Dude, they have to, right? They
Yeah,
have to. They have 2 good running backs going against. You just said they're giving up 7 touchdowns, which could be a little weird if it was all in one game. But I feel like they
yeah.
have to run the ball heavy in this game. Just
But
I,
when we go into our picks, I've got the Broncos win.
okay.
I'm going
whatever.
Russell Wilson. I went Russell Wilson last week as far as picks goes, and he popped off. I'm going Russell Wilson again.
He's done, bro. Russell Wilson's done. You know he is. That was a bad pickup for the Broncos 2 years ago or a year ago.
All right, Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders. Who you got?
Commanders.
Yeah, I'm taking Commanders as well. Jaguars, Bills.
Another London game, right? And the London Jaguars.
Yep.
I'll take the Bills. Obviously, they're gonna wax them.
Hey, Jacksonville pretty much lives in London now.
Yeah, they talk with the accent. They just drink tea. They don't drink Gatorade, bro. It's just tea on the sideline.
Just drinking tea. I love it. Yeah. Give me. Does this one not feel weird though? Like, especially the Bills coming off a big like Miami win.
No, it feels perfectly normal. The Bills are gonna wax them.
All right, I'm taking Bills too. Then you convince me.
What do you mean it feels weird? How does it feel weird?
It's just like Jacksonville just played in London. They're playing in London again. The Bills like we've seen the Bills hit or miss, right? Like when they hit, they hit. When they miss, they lose to the Jets. It's like I don't know, man. I'm just like I'm confident in that team, but I'm also like they're never a true lock for me as a winner.
Yeah, I mean,
but also is Jacksonville
going
to win 2 in a row in London?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Bills, they just completely put the Dolphins at a halt with their super explosive offense. And then just when when the Bills offense gets rolling, especially with Stephon Diggs, like they can put up some serious points real fast. And then when Josh Allen's on too, I mean, he was off the first game against the Jets, which I don't know, it could be a fluke game at this point. But yeah, I don't see the Bills stopping anytime soon. But we'll see.
Give me the Bills. Give me the Bills. New Orleans Saints, New England Patriots.
The Saints look like shit. This is a weird game. I guess Saints, another weird, slow game, I feel like.
Yeah. Give me the Patriots. Jameis Winston's still playing, I believe.
So I didn't watch that game, but they said that Derek Carr came in at like the 4th quarter or whatever and like looked real hurt. And it was still like no one really understood why they brought him into the game.
No, I didn't watch that game. I have no idea.
Yeah, did you know where you were at Sunday?
Speaking of that, Tennessee Titans, Indianapolis Colts.
This game's in Indianapolis, right?
Yeah.
Dude, give me the Colts. I'm on the Anthony Richardson bandwagon. And if Jonathan Taylor comes back, I know we were talking, we don't know what he's gonna do, but I like the team. And guess who's throwing the same amount of touchdown passes as Tannehill?
Who?
Derrick Henry. This season.
That's true. Is that real?
Yeah.
So give
me Indianapolis, dude.
Give me the Titans. They look pretty good against the Bengals. Although they look pretty good against the Chargers too.
Yeah, they look pretty good against the Bengals because Henry got going finally, dude. Yeah. Well, not finally. He got going again.
He usually plays pretty well against the Colts too. Just give me the Titans.
I think that's actually like a kind of a bit of a rivalry game.
Oh yeah, I feel like that's been like the biggest AFC South matchup the last few years, just because well, Jacksonville was a pretty big matchup last year, but the years before that, it was always the Colts.
Yeah.
Uh, Baltimore Ravens, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ravens. I think the Steelers look like shit. I think they're about to go to Trubisky over Pickett.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Give me the Ravens also.
Ravens defense is pretty good too.
Yeah, they're very good. I think Lamar has a good game. Carolina Panthers, Detroit Lions.
So I think Bryce Young has just looked bad. I think they should have him personally. I think they should have him sent behind Andy Dalton. So I'm
Mm.
gonna go Detroit. I think Detroit is just rolling right now. I like them a lot.
Yeah, I do too. I'll go Detroit on that one also. Um, Houston Texans, Atlanta Falcons.
I'm gonna go Texans. I think CJ Stroud throws for another 300-yard game. I haven't actually watched him play. I'm gonna actually sit down and watch that game and see
Yeah, that'd
how
be a
he
good one.
actually looks.
That'd be a good one. It's in Atlanta. I think it'll be a solid one. Give me Texans on that one too. Um, New York Giants, Miami Dolphins.
I think the Dolphins just run over him, dude. Like the Giants are dead. Is Saquon supposed to be back? Do you know if he's supposed to be back?
I don't know. It showed him several times during that game on the sidelines.
Uh,
He looked like he was having too much fun on the sidelines to want to come back.
yeah, being hurt like what he usually is.
Getting paid,
But yeah,
whatever.
I like the Dolphins, man. I think they faced probably the toughest defense they're gonna face last year with the Bills, and they just have
Yeah.
way too many weapons, man. So definitely the Dolphins.
All right, yeah, give me the Dolphins also. Um Cincinnati Bengals, Arizona Cardinals.
I think this might be a close one, dude.
Uh
Honestly, like I said, Dodds has rushed for like over 40 yards, played pretty well his past 3 games. Uh, but I don't know if I could pick against the Bengals. So I'm gonna go Bengals just because I don't think I could pick against them in that scenario. But I could see that being a good game.
yeah. Give me the Cardinals. I'll take the Cardinals.
You think so, dude?
Yeah, Bengals. I think they'll start playing better eventually, but they've looked awful.
I could see Jamar Chase having a big game this game though too. After he kind of voiced his opinion a little bit on how he's always open. So I could see him possibly having a big game against Arizona, but I honestly, bro, I have no clue. We'll see. And Arizona just had that rookie or the other guy who just popped off last game had like 26 points receiver. So I don't know. We'll see, dude.
Yeah, I'll take Cardinals. Philadelphia Eagles, Los Angeles Rams.
Uh,
I think this is like matchup of the week for me
yeah,
personally. I think it's a good game.
I still think I think the Eagles still. I know they looked kind of weird last week against the. Well, I don't even know if they looked weird. It was just a good game. AJ Brown
Yeah,
still had like 40 points, and Swift I think had 20. So
it's in
I think
SoFi.
Eagles, dude. What?
It's in LA. Does that change your opinion?
Not really, man. But I mean, what dude? Puka Nakua is a guy though, dude. He's a
Yeah, he is.
guy. He's a
Yeah,
guy. That guy,
yeah.
like, I don't know. He reminds me of like Alvin Kamara kind of where he just takes a monster hit and then just like gets right back up like no problem, just jogs back over to the sideline.
Yeah.
Dude's a stud for real. But I still think I think the Eagles. I think it'll be definitely be a good game though.
I'm taking the Rams on that one. I think Stafford's going to throw for over 300 yards for sure.
I
Especially
mean
if
they just
Cubs back, man.
yeah,
I
I mean they're coming off the overtime win against the Colts, which the Colts
mm,
came all the way back. So
yeah,
I guess it
yeah.
depends on their defense really if they could slow down the Eagles offense. That's gonna be the key in that game.
All right. New York Jets, Denver Broncos.
Is it in Denver?
Yeah,
Uh, I'm gonna go Jets. Like partially because I kind of feel bad for Zach Wilson a little bit. Like everyone's like, this guy sucks. Get him out of town. He's horrible. The Hall of Fame quarterback from the Jets is like, you get this guy is terrible. And then he just balls out, dude. He balled out against the Chiefs. I thought he looked pretty good. But specifically, I think they have to get their run game going to really be contenders, I guess. I'm gonna go Jets.
All right, I'm gonna go Broncos.
Gross.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna go Broncos. Kansas City Chiefs, Minnesota Vikings. Another good matchup.
Vikings. Vikings.
Vikings?
They're coming off. They just lost, didn't they? Aren't they 0-4?
Did they
Who
lose?
did they play last?
No, they won.
No, they beat
ended up winning.
Carolina.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Vikings in a sleeper win. That'll be my sleeper pick of the week. I get for some reason, I just can see the Vikings winning that game. I don't know why. I can't really tell you a specific reason, but I just see them winning that game.
Give me the Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean that's the obvious pick, right?
Yeah, it's almost too obvious, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like Kirk Cousins has played well. Their run game's been kind of shitty.
Yeah.
But Justin Jefferson's still a guy. I don't know. I could see them just for some reason just winning that game. I don't know why. Probably won't happen, but I'll put it down.
All right. Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers.
Dude. I think the
Big
Cowboys get
matchup.
exposed right here and lose by 20.
Really?
I don't think their offense is really that explosive. Well, I mean, they had a good game against New England, but New England's offense is horrible. I think they're just relying on their defense too much. And I think the 49ers just have weapons all over the place on offense and the defense to supplement it. So I think, I don't know 20, but definitely I think 10. 49ers I'll go 49ers by 10.
Yeah, give me the 49ers too.
There's so much hype around Dallas every year, dude. Like,
yeah.
And like, I just feel like they play mediocre. Like, did you see the 49ers losing? No, they already played them. I don't know. I think the 49ers are a really good team.
They are good. All right, and then for Monday night, we got the Green Bay Packers in Vegas against the Raiders.
I think it might be a good game too. Actually,
give me the Packers.
That's what I was gonna say. Even though Garoppolo was out last game, but that dude played well. I mean, they kept it close with close game all the way through with the Chargers. So I don't know if he's going to be back or not, but I still think Green Bay. I think Green Bay hasn't looked too bad. I know he's kind of got smacked wherever by Detroit, but I think Jordan Love has played well, so I could see Green Bay winning that game.
Yeah, I'll take Green Bay also on that one. Yeah, I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo's back or not yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen or heard anything about that, so I have no clue. But honestly, bro, I don't know if it makes a difference. Let's be real, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
let's be real.
Might be right on that one.
I mean, I don't know. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll find out next Monday, right?
Yeah, next Monday. There it is. Cool. Well, appreciate you hopping on the show, AJ Eagle.
No problem, dude. It was a pleasure being here. Fun as always.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the Fantasy Forecast. Good luck going into Week 5. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Ask any questions. We'll address them in the next episode. Thank you.